Is he a better Batman than Bruce Wayne? Maybe not, but welcome to Unbuckled Comics. If you're new, welcome. There is a liability form on the back table next to some little handheld mirrors. I just, kind of what made sense. Black mirror. These ones aren't black, they're reflective. I'm not really sure what a black mirror is, even after reading this book. If you are returning, thank you for your continued support. I am your host, Unbuckled Cape, on this comic book review podcast, and today we have part one of my two-part review of Batman the Black Mirror. This is our first review with Dick Grayson as Batman. But before we head out on patrol, let's gather some intel first. I have a link tree. That link tree takes you to the social medias, the Discord, the YouTube, all the good stuff. It is linktree.com/unbuckledcomics. linktree.ee/unbuckled comics. Feel like I should have so much more to say here, but just throwing out a link tree has made it like all my plugs are too easy at this point. Look, hey, let's talk about Discord, I guess. Go join the Discord. It's a lot of fun. This past week, I did not do my Capes Detectives. I've just been super, super busy and decided to hold off a week. We will jump back on that this coming week. I will get the. I didn't even get the little. I don't even know what we call it. I guess a miniature case file we can call it on the characters that win. So like what I do is on Monday I post a very vague clue. Sometimes clues are selected by the previous week's winners. The characters are always selected by the previous week's winners or winner. And I post a vague clue. Wednesday I post a better clue. Friday I post a logo or a very obvious clue. And then sometime over the weekend is when it's supposed to be, but it doesn't always happen that way. I post, when they first appeared in comics, who they were written by, and just a little bio of said character. You can go onto Discord and play that game with us, as well as submit comments for the episodes. Take part in polls. We just had a recent poll, about a week ago, maybe, and the poll was to ask what you guys wanted when. So this month, our Unbuckled and Unscripted is going to be Mrs. Cape. She's going to sit down here whenever we get time that both of us can sit down, and we're going to talk about the uh, Granville Comic Con, the Hershey Comic Con. It was her first big nerd event like that, and actually probably the only nerd event she's been to other than movies. So I'm gonna get her opinion on it. Yes, she is versed in the nerd culture just because she is married to me and we have been together, oh, getting close to 8 years now. Hardly believe it. Um, so we're gonna see what she really thought of the whole Comic Con scene, and we'll have a fun little conversation there, and then that meant that I am looking, I am looking. That puts our I don't see if I wrote it down. I had interviewed a gentleman that owns a comic book shop a while ago, and I like as in a while ago, like March, and I haven't got it out. I just keep pushing it back, and I'm kind of holding it in the archive because it felt like a good one to hold in case I got something happened that I got caught behind it was one that I could drop. I want to drop it now. So we voted on where those two were gonna fall, and I just dawned on me that I could go into here and look. You know, I could open up the actual poll. So Mrs. Cape is going to be in Mrs. Cape is going to come out in August, and we are going to talk to Albert from Comics Metropolis in October. There you go. That's what it is. So um that's that. As far as like what's coming up episode, I don't have any update. Everything's pretty much the same as what it has been. We have Batman Black Mirror today. Next week, you will get part two of that. Then we will have Mrs. Cape, Spider Man Blue, Robin Batgirl Year One, an interview with Scott Beatty. I'm supposed to be talking to him here in the next 2 days. We have it scheduled. Finally, getting to your case file in middle of September of Green Goblin. I have that episode recorded and ready to rock. Daredevil Batman by D.G. Chichester. And as soon as I'm done getting this intro set up and everything plugged out away for this episode, I'm going to record the review of Where Monsters Lie, which is something that I just finished reading minutes ago. And then I will jump on to starting to read the. Um, I really need to change my thing, my title in my book because I have Apollo Burning, and every week we talk about this. It's not Apollo Burning. It's like Second Turbine Blade or something crazy, confusing like that. If you have a question of what we are reading, please feel free to message Captain Alcatraz. That is Captain Alcatraz, or just Alan, if you want to use his fake name. He is a member of the Retrotopia podcast, and he will be joining me for that review of the first book written by the Coheed and Cambria lead man. Um, the Armory Wars, the second stage, Turbine Blade, and how they come up with these names are beyond me, but I'm hoping that he is going to tell us. Um, so yeah. And then after that, we got some long Halloween stuff, the interview with Albert, and then I'm looking forward to actually setting up another Unbuckled tournament, which we will jump into in September once the case file comes out, and then we'll do the voting and do the whole dance over again. I kind of miss having an Unbuckled tournament to talk about here, um, but that's not what we're here for. We're not here to talk about tournaments. We're here to talk about comic books, and specifically the comic book Batman: The Black Mirror. All right, so Batman: The Black Mirror. Let's take a look at our creators first, mix up our order a little bit here. Scott Snyder is the writer. He has written Talon, which is a. Actually, squint my eyes here. So he did quite a bit of the New 52 Batman stuff. Uh, Also, The Batman Who Laughs, along with Animal Man, Gates of Gotham, Talon, which is a spinoff of the City and Court of Owls. What is it actually? I think the first one is Quarter Vowels, and the second one is City of Owls, and then the trade is Night of Owls. Anyway, Francesco Francavilla. I actually think I got that right. Francesco Francavilla. This he is the artist. Star Wars Adventurer, The Lone Ranger, Twilight Zone, Doctor Who, Prisoners of Time, and then the last artist on the book is Jock. Just Jock. Jock. The Losers, which is a movie, and I have not read the comic, but I have seen the movie, and the movie is fantastic. I love it. It's Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth. No. Oh my word. Oh my word. Not Chris Hemsworth. Not Chris Pratt. Chris. Oh my word. Evans. It's Chris Evans. Ugh, that's awful. I think I did that before on another episode. I don't remember what it was, but I remember not being able to think of Evans' last name. Anyway, Chris Evans is in the movie The Losers, and as well as oh boy, the girl that plays Gamora. Oh, forget it. Anyway, he has also done some work on Judge Dredd, Wolverine Max, Green Arrow Year One, and Nightwing. So let's just quick little backstory on this. So this is Batman: The Black Mirror. I don't know if I was aware that this is actually a Dick Grayson Batman story when I bought it, but after I did, I spent some time gathering some Dick Grayson Batman stories. So this takes place after Batman R.I.P., Final Crisis, Battle for the Cow, and then actually after a bunch of the other Dick Grayson Batman stories. And it also takes place after Batman Incorporated, which is when, well, okay, there's, I'm peering at my shelf. The writing on some of them is too small to read. I know I have Batman Eye of the Beholder. maybe Batman Life After Death is another one. Then it's Batman and Robin. There's three different ones of those, but it's just the first one and then the second one, and then it's maybe Batman Gates of Gotham, then Bruce Wayne, um, Batman: The Return of Bruce Wayne. That's what that one is. And then the next Batman and Robin, and then Batman Incorporated, and then actually I think it's Gates of Gotham, and then another one, and then another. My point being is, this story takes place after Bruce dies and after he returns. So just a little bit of backstory: Bruce Wayne returns, and he doesn't pick up being Gotham's Batman right away. He actually focuses all his energy on Wayne Industries creating the Batman Incorporated initiative, which is where Wayne Industries dumps a bunch of money and publicly announces that they're funding Batman's being Batman, and then he ends up dumping a bunch of money in to help fund the GCPD as well. So all that stuff, okay? You with me? You get it? You got it? So um Dick Grayson is still Batman, but this is one of the last stories we will have of Dick Grayson being Batman. That being said, I did always like when Dick wore the mantle. He makes a great Batman, and that's like no, I don't. Is he a better Batman than Bruce Wayne? Maybe not, but he's a much more fun Batman. So as I said, Wayne Industry is publicly funding Batman and built a special forensics lab for the GCPD. When a prep school boy turns into like a basic killer croc, Dick tracks down a cop that sells high ticketed um, police evidence to this guy named the dealer. When I mean high ticketed, I mean items that belong to super criminals in Gotham City. So then Jim Gordon's, uh, we talking about Dick Grayson being Batman, even in issue number one here of this trade, we get to see some of the funny differences and plays that they can do with Dick as Batman. At one point, they are standing on the roof talking about this kid who took this medicine that made him into a basic killer croc, and he attacked um, these other boys that were bullying him, and they were trying to connect the dots. Okay, mom had this drug. This drug was used way back when. It was in police evidence. What's the connection? Okay, so it's this cop. And as they're standing on the roof having this conversation, Gordon turns, and I think he turns off the bat signal or something, and turns back around, and Dick is still standing there. And Jim says, and this is a quote, "Not used to you still being there when I look up." I mean, not too long ago we talked about Batman Earth One, and I commented multiple times on how much I loved when they kind of poked fun at the Batman tropes, and we get another one of those here in this one. Issue number two, the art is similar to um the New 52, but less defined. I think it hurts the story overall. But a gigantic plus to this story is getting to see Dick Grayson's interaction with Barbara, Alfred, and Tim, who is actually running Wayne Industries. Getting to see him as the head of the Bat family is quite a treat. We know who he is as Robin, we know who he is as Nightwing, and then finally getting to see him run it and run it well. The family is functioning at a high capacity. Wayne Industries is doing good, and so on and so forth. So another plus is the creepy plot. A group of socialites going to tragic locations to bid on items of death and fame, like the Joker's crowbar that he used to beat Jason Todd almost to death before blowing him up. That is an actual item that they are auctioning off in this like broken down building that a ton of people burned to death in, and like it's really weird cult type stuff. The tension as Dick infiltrates the Mirror House is the name of this public auction, hence the Black Mirror. This Mirror House, it moves around place to place and it goes around the globe and it stops in Gotham and they pick out Gotham's, random tragic broken down building that's, possibly haunted or whatever. And then they pump lethal gas into the room and make everybody um, wear these like old school gas masks so that their identity remains hidden, but yet it adds to like this whole eerie tension of the room. And Dick, he gets in there, and the the anxiety you have from it because the art changes from a typical what you would think comic book art to this cut down panel where it's using this orange type shading and everything looks like you would think it would look through looking through a very old gas mask like that, and it just brings the anxiety, and it's actually palpable when you're reading it. And in this case it allows the art to really shine. So just in a single issue we go from me thinking about the art being okay to, ooh, okay, I get it now. Now I see why we draw and color this the way we are, because it gets creepy and the art really, really engrosses you into what is happening in the Mirror House. The old hunched over dealer ends up knowing that Batman is there despite uh, the new Batman Incorporated tech that Dick Grayson is using. It's kind of like a mask that goes over and reflects light to, make his face whatever he wants it to be. I'm trying to think there's a movie and I can picture someone pulling it off of their face. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Um so yeah, that's pretty much how issue number 2 ends. Issue number 3, this concoction of gas that is being pumped into that room was being filtered out in everyone's mask except Dick Grayson's mask. And he is running for his life and also his sanity, as this stuff is kind of like a mix of fear toxin, but some other knockout gas type stuff. He ends up chasing after the dealer who turns. So Dick ends up being rescued by Red Robin, who finds him unconscious. They put him in, take him to his penthouse, put him in bed, try to pump the stuff out of him. He gets up, and we see him be a little bit more like Batman, where he won't rest. Barbara kind of pleads with him, "Hey, just take it easy, and we know who this guy is. We have a way to track him. We can get him wherever, whenever. Let's just do it that way." And Dick's like, "No, we're not doing that. I'm going after him right now, and we are taking this SOB down." So he does. He chases him into the sky, and this dealer pumps himself with almost the same kind of venom that this kid did, but instead of it turning him into like a killer croc type figure, it kind of turns him into this freakish man bat mutant thing that is just wild. But it really isn't a real threat. And Dick Grayson easily handles the dealer, and then that's it. No joke. The title of this trade is The Black Mirror, and we have 3 issues out of, I think it's a total of like 14 issues, and 3 of them are actually part of a Black Mirror story. So, out of this story, issue 2 was by far the best, and the rest sits very, very firmly as okay issues. So, not good, not great, but there's a ton of other stories in this trade, and we're gonna take a look at them. In fact, we're gonna start with the longer group of the stories, and it turns out to be more of a Jim Gordon trade paperback than it is a Dick Grayson. So everyone knows Gordon has 2 kids, right? I mean, you would be forgiven if you didn't know that Jim Gordon has a son. His son does appear in the Dark Knight movies, especially the Dark Knight. Yeah, just the Dark Knight. It is when everyone thinks Jim Gordon's dead, and you see the little boy standing at the door when they show up to tell Jim's wife that she had passed. Anyway, Barbara and James is his 2 kids, and like I said, maybe casual fans wouldn't really know that he has a son, but why is that? So in part one, which is issue number 4 of the trade, in part one of the skeleton case, we get an idea that James is actually a killer who sets birds free in an aviary and tracks down his father, Commissioner James Gordon. So again, not a lot of depth in this story, but all we do is basically just bring up the fact that Gordon has a son, and they do talk about the Black Mirror stuff, and then it kind of leads into this. So, uh, um, honestly, look, we'll review the rest of this, but between the Black Mirror and the skeleton case and the rest of this James Gordon Jr. stuff, this is the much more interesting stuff. So, issue number 5 in this trade, it's a rare comic issue. It's rare that when a comic issue is done in one setting and one conversation, but that is 1 billion% what this one is, man. It's weird to like sit here and think that you read an entire comic issue and the setting of the place never changes and it's all one conversation. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. So all this is just James and Jim sitting in a diner talking back and forth. That's it. Uh, they are talking about James' ugly past and how he's trying to be better. And I know it sounds boring, but they use the art style and like everything is like this weird off shade of red and oranges. Nothing is really colored right. It's all in a shade of red and orange and maybe a couple of grays and blacks thrown in there. And it adds such tension to it, as well as early on, James jokes about killing a waitress and clogging the sink with one of her body parts as he was waiting for Barbara Gordon to leave the diner to come out and then talk to his dad. And as the conversation is going, James Gordon has his back to the door, or James, they're both James. Commissioner Gordon has his back to the door of the bathroom, and as the conversation is going on, water is slowly coming out of the bathroom. So uh, Gordon Jr. is telling you, "Oh, I'm not that person anymore. I'm not a killer. I was never a killer." Then he makes a joke about killing someone and clogging the sink and water's running out. Um, really, really tense stuff as this conversation is going on because, again, you could be forgiven if you didn't know that there was a son, and we don't know who the son is, and all we really know is the conversation between Commissioner and his daughter Barbara, and how Barbara is totally convinced that she's the killer. And what's he going to do to his dad sitting there? Issue number 6, we get back to a little Batman and Red Robin stuff. They're getting ready to bust a group of poachers who are picking up animals that were freed from the aviary. Batman is actually still having hallucinations left over from the dealer's drugs back in the Black Mirror story. The best part of this issue by far is in the first few pages when we see Dick act like Bruce. He does the "I'm fine," and then Tim Drake, who is Red Robin, is telling him, you really need to take time and blah blah blah. And Dick Grayson does the whole "shh, they're here," and like he does the very business first, but he ends it with one of like it's an instant Grayson classic as these thugs are getting out and carrying these caged birds, and you know typical thugs, they're kind of in like nice suits, they got guns and they're wearing glasses, and Dick remarks, "Careful, they're wearing glasses at night, which means they're very cool." And then he goes into telling about like he tells a joke, but really he needs to be taken this seriously and blah blah blah. And there's really nothing in issue 6 of any importance other than just showing us what kind of a Batman Dick Grayson is. Issue number 7, and here's how we're gonna end this week's episode because this is a large trade. Um, it's with a tale of James Jr. and the Peter Pan Killer. This is a haunting story, and it gives us a much needed backstory on James and what happened to Barbara's friend Best, who she claims James killed. We also see Gordon arrest the Peter Pan killer who may have possibly killed Bess. So the whole thing is Commissioner Gordon and his wife Barbara get divorced, and this story, Sarah is the mother to Barbara, Batgirl. I know it's confusing, dude. Barbara's and James's, and I don't know why we decided to do it that way, but we did. So anyway, we have this case of killings going on when Gordon was just a detective, I believe, and supposedly this kidnapper is sneaking in through windows, and what's happening is he's kidnapping these children and leaving the windows wide open, and everyone's calling him the Peter Pan killer. And Gordon thinks that that's not how it's happening at all. He thinks that he's purposely the killer is purposely leaving the windows open as a distraction. And like right in the middle of the case, he decides that he and his family are going to a cabin to get away for a little vacation, and he is taking both of his children with, and there's a phone conversation with his ex-wife, and they're talking about how strange, James is, and he's just not normal, and this and that, and we see, for Halloween one year when he was really little, he dressed up as the Joker, and all this like really, really odd, twisted stuff. And they get up to the cabin, and Barbara's friend Bess comes over, and they, you know, have a shared chemistry kit. And, Barbara carries the box, and Bess carries the key. And James is fascinated with it, and he's trying to break into it, and all this like weird, weird stuff. And then Bess goes missing that night. At the end of this issue, Commissioner Gordon catches this guy that he's kind of been following for years that he suspects as the original Peter Pan killer, and he confesses to Gordon that he came up to the family cabin that weekend. But he never says about Bess. He says about he had intentions of hurting James Gordon, but James said something to him that freaked him out and he ended up leaving. So we still don't really know who kills Bess, and we still don't really know what's going on with James Gordon Jr. And as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I know I've read this before a couple of times, but I don't remember which direction this goes with him. I don't know if we get an answer, and you won't know until next week. So, until next week, guys, get out there and save the world, you bunch of heroes.